Hey guys, King of Charmanders here, and today I bring to you a video on the best fire attack builds, the Vernal Invader. This guide provides fire attack builds as of the Vernal Invader update. I will analyze the best fire attack builds for each weapon type, so this is going to go over the whole shebang we have right now. Each weapon type, the best fire attack builds for them, and unfortunately, fire isn't as flexible as other elements, so we are limited as far as the amount of customization you can do. Compared to thunder, which was the one before, unfortunately, there's not a lot you can do and work around stuff. So I'm going to do the best I can and provide you with options. Unfortunately, speaking of options, there isn't a lot of options, as one build is a default for a lot of the weapon types, so I won't go over them and just go over what you need, as some monster types for some weapons may be different. I will also be releasing a video on budget fire builds, so don't worry if these are too expensive for you or you're just a brand new to a beginner's player. I'm going to give you a pathway to where you won't have to worry about all this nonsense where I'm like, I can't afford this, or I'm not even at Rathalos yet. So don't worry about that. I will make sure to put a video on that so you aren't left behind. First, we're going to start out with the fire weapons monster types comparisons. Some are better than others, and not all weapons are created equal. In this case, the best is Rathalos as the best option, as the highest combined damage out of all the fire weapons. So Rathalos is king, the face of Monster Hunter, as far as a lot of series titles, and it is the best weapon for fire in Monster Hunter now. The only problem with that is Rathalos is a one biome monster, so medium difficult to gather materials to max. One biome, the new monster tracker might help you a little bit, but Rathalos is king for a reason. Next up, if you look at the total, you have Rathalos has highest raw damage, but the lowest fire damage. This makes this weapon not the best, but it can still be a good generalist weapon, as it is also a subspecies, so it's hard to max. So you're not going to go after this one versus the other one. Again, if you want a generalist weapon, you want monsters that aren't weak to fire, and you still want to be able to take them out, Rathalos might do for you if you don't want to switch. But the thing about it is, it's second best Rathalos. And again, it's a subspecies, so it's not that accessible. This makes, in dead last, Anjanath. The T-Rex, the dinosaur, is the most accessible out of the three, but does less total damage than Rathalos. Although this really depends on the build, and Anjanath spawns in two biomes. It spawns in forest and in deserts. So if you are a beginner, or if you're a new player, Anjanath is definitely going to be the weapon type you're going to go after. If we look at the total right here, Rathalos is king, followed by Rathalos, its subspecies, and Anjanath is dead last. So take this into consideration, so when you build your weapons, you aren't wasting resources. However, something you want to keep into consideration, not all weapon types have a Rathalos variation. So you may be forced to use Anjanath even though if you don't want to, because there is no weapon type for Rathalos or Rathalos for that weapon. Alright, now we're going to get started with the builds. Here's the thing though, and here's a big asterisk. This build is going to be the default for a lot of weapon types. However, for this build, it uses, if you pop it into mhn.quest, it shows you Critical Eye, level 2 Pink Wrath Waste instead of the Black Diablo's Coil. What I'm going to do is I put and show you Black Diablo's Coil because most of you, and in the consensus, lock-on is king. So you need lock-on to lock into specific monster parts anyways, if you want weakness exploit to proc. So all of these builds will have the coil in it. Again, this build is going to be the default for a lot of them. Just like what I said before, I'm going to go over the ones really quickly because a lot of them are going to have this same exact build. First, for Sword and Shield, the Fire Sword and Shield. We're starting off with Sword and Shield. We have Fire Attack 5, Weakness Exploit 2, and it has a practical damage assessment of 3,690 versus fire weak monsters. Again, this is with the Critical Eye level 2 into account. This build uses Black Diablo's Coil to give you lock on. So I switch out the coil with, I switch out the Pink Wrath Waste with the Black Diablo's Coil, so that way you have lock on. This maxed out fire attack at level 5 and has the ability to crit thanks to Weakness Exploit 2 at 25%. For this build, you need the Rathalos Sword and Shield at grade 10, Anjanath Helmet at grade 6, Rathalos Mail at grade 6, Anjanath Fan Braces at grade 6, Black Diablo's Coil at grade 6, and the Azarathelos Greaves at grade 6. For the next weapon type, we have the Greatsword, and it's the Fire Greatsword. Same build as this SNS one, so it's Fire Attack 5, Weakness Exploit 2. Again, if you want to look at that deep dive, go back to the Sword and Shield one, which is literally the slide before. For this build, you need the Rathalos Greatsword at grade 10, the Anjanath Helmet at grade 6, the Rathalos Mail at grade 6, Anjanath Vambraces at grade 6, Black Diablo's Coil at grade 6, and the Azarathelos Greaves at grade 6. For the next weapon type, we have the Hammer, and it's the Fire Hammer. However, here's a little twist. Although this is the same build as the other two, so just go back to the SNS side, the Sword and Shield, if you want a reference. This requires the Anjanath Hammer, as is the only monster type with a fire weapon. So again, Anjanath Hammer is the only fire type hammer. There is none other. So for this build, you must use the Anjanath Hammer at grade 10, the Anjanath Helmet at grade 6, Rathalos Mail at grade 6, Anjanath Vambraces at grade 6, Black Diablo's Coil at grade 6, and the Azarathelos Greaves at grade 6. Next up, we're still in the Hammer, as we have a Fire Attack 4 Slugger 2 build, and it's the second build for the Fire Hammer. So what this does, it sacrifices one level of Fire Attack to give Slugger level 2. For those of you who like boink stunning your monster to death, you could use this build, as it gives you the ability to stun, an extra ability to stun, and you can boink things to death, like I mentioned, at the sacrifice of one Fire Attack to give Slugger level 2. So you sacrifice one level of Fire Attack, but you get Slugger level 2. In addition, it will give you Part Breaker level 1 and can allow extra stun power if parts are broken. So you have level 1 Part Breaker and you have Slugger level 2. And thanks to Weakness Exploit level 2, you get 25% ability to crit if you hit weak spots. For this build, if you want to use this one instead of the first one, you have the Anjanath Hammer at grade 10, the Anjanath Helmet at grade 6, Rathalos Mail at grade 6, Anjanath Vambraces at grade 6, Black Diablo's Coil at grade 6, and the Diablo's Greaves at grade 6. On to the next weapon type, and we have the Longsword. For the Fire Longsword, we have the same exact build as the Fire Sword and Shield one. So go back to that for the reference. However, thankfully this one actually has a Rathalos variation. So for this build, you will use the Rathalos Longsword at grade 10, the Anjanath Helmet at grade 6, Rathalos Mail at grade 6, Anjanath Vambraces at grade 6, Black Diablo's Coil at grade 6, and the Azarathelos Greaves at grade 6. Moving on to the next weapon type, we have my personal favorite. This is the Light Bowgun. I call this the Pew Pew build. Well, most of you are going Pew Pew with it if you're using it, as this is a Fire Attack 5, Recoil Down 3, and Reload Speed 3 build, which is the Fire Light Bowgun. This has a practical theoretical damage assessment of 4,086. So 4,086 does a lot, and it maxed out Fire Attack 5. The thing is, when Koro Puke Coil came out, this build became possible, as you can now get Recoil Down 3 along with Reload Speed 3, and it was absolutely insane. As you see with the Rathalos Light Bowgun here, you have flaming ammo, piercing fire ammo, and slicing fire ammo. So you could cut off tails, and you could do a ton of damage. This maxes out Fire Attack 5 and maxes out Reload Speed 3 and Recoil Down 3 to do a ridiculous amount of damage. In fact, I love using this to get my small monster parts, because all I have to do is, some of the times or most of the times, just tap once and it blasts those poor little small monsters to oblivion. In fact, this was a popular Fire Attack 5 build even before Koro Puke Coil was released. With Azarathelos Greaves, you could get Reload Speed 3 and you could get the Fire Attack 5. So it was a whole lot of fun. Did a whole lot of damage, and with this build, it's just so dang good, and it's so much fun. So if you want to use this and you're a Light Bowgun user, you need the Rathalos Light Bowgun at grade 10, the Anjanath Helmet at grade 6, Palumu Mail at grade 6, the Anjanath Vambraces at grade 6, the Koro Puke Coil at grade 6, and the Azarathelos Greaves at grade 6. Now that we covered one ranged weapon type, you have the other, which is the bow. For the bow, we have the Focus 5 Fire Attack 3 build for the fire bow. And this has a practical theoretical damage assessment of 3,969. That's a very nice number, by the way. This maxes out Focus 5 to allow fast charging to level 4, or charge level 4. And this Fire Attack 3 provides bonus fire attack damage. In fact, I'm really interested in this build because of the fact that I forgot that with the Azarathlos helm, it's possible to get to Focus 5 without having to have 4 of your pieces have Focus on it, which is really cool. Because back in the day, Focus 5 and Fire Attack 4 was possible, but now you can get to Focus 5 and have a lot of fire attack thanks to this build. And this build actually outdamages the Azarathlos bow build, which I'm going to cover next. So if you have the Azarathlos bow, I'm going to put that on the next build. For this one, you have the Rathalos bow at grade 10, the Azarathlos helmet at grade 6, the Rathalos mail at grade 6, Anjanath fan braces at grade 6, the Rathalos coil at grade 6, and the Gyrototus greaves at grade 6. Next up, we have the bow build number 2 for the fire bow, and this is Focus 5 Burst 2. With a practical theoretical damage assessment of 3,501. Interesting enough, this does not use fire attack and instead maxed out Focus level 5 to spam spread level 3 with 1 blink, which is charge level 2 for the Azarathlos bow. With the Azarathlos bow at charge level 2, you get spread level 3, so it has a shotgun effect, which is really cool. However, it does like 500 less damage at max power. But this build might actually work better with the current set of ice monsters in Monster Hunter now. With Rathalos, it's Pierce. With Spread, you can shotgun down the ice monsters because Leggy's Wings and Barrieth will constantly try to charge towards you. So Leggy's Wings are very wide, so you can shotgun them pretty easily. Talk about Legiana. And Barrieth tries to literally run you over like a semi-truck on steroids or something like that. So, because Barrett's going to constantly fly towards you and just smack you in the face and clothesline you from hell, you might actually want to use this build instead of the other one, if you can. Some of y'all might not have invested in the Azarathlos bow because Azarathlos is a subspecies, and rightfully so. It's just easier to do Rathalos versus this one, especially with the monster tracker, because Rathalos can be tracked, unlike its subspecies, which cannot. For this build, you need the Azarathlos bow at grade 10, Azarathlos helmet at grade 6, the Rathalos mail at grade 6, Rathian van braces at grade 6, Rathalos coil at grade 6, and the Gyrototus greaves at grade 6. On to the next weapon type, and we have the dual blades. For the fire dual blades, we have the same fire attack build as the sword and shield. So if you want a deep dive, go all the way back to that side. But, however, one important note. For the dual blades, it has a practical damage assessment of 3,501 versus fire weak monsters due to Anjanath dual blades. Unfortunately, Anjanath dual blades isn't as strong as Rathalos, and it is the only weapon type available for dual blades when it comes to the fire element. So again, you only have Anjanath dual blades, just like the hammer, unfortunately, for this weapon type. To use this build, you must have the Anjanath dual blades at grade 10, the Anjanath helmet at grade 6, Rathalos mail at grade 6, Anjanath fan braces at grade 6, the Black Diablos coil at grade 6, and the Azarathlos greaves at grade 6. Flip the book to the next weapon type and we have the Lance, with the Fire Lance. And again, this is the same build as the Sword and Shield one at Fire Attack 5, so go back to that build for the reference. However, in order to use this build, you must use the Rathalos Lance at grade 10, the Anjanath helmet at grade 6, the Rathalos mail at grade 6, Anjanath fan braces at grade 6, the Black Diablos coil at grade 6, and the Azarathlos greaves at grade 6. However, we aren't done with the Lance as we have one more build, the Offensive Guard 5 crit build for the Fire Lance. This has a practical theoretical damage assessment of 3,830. Does not use Fire Attack 5, instead it uses out Offensive Guard 5 and maxes it out, and uses crit for additional damage. For this build, you have the Koropuke helm, which gives the build lock-on, which is really nice and sweet, because lock-on with the Lance is nice to be able to poke it down with whatever you are facing. For this build, you need the Rathalos Lance at grade 10, the Koropuke helmet at grade 8, the Barrieth mail at grade 6, Bamboo Van Braces at grade 6, Pink Wrathing Coil at grade 6, and the Black Diablo's Greaves at grade 6. And last but not least, for the final weapon type, we have the Charge Blade. For the Fire Charge Blade, we have the same exact fire attack build for the majority of these weapon types. Starting off with the practical damage assessment of 3,735 versus fire weak monsters. So this one actually does a little more damage with the Fire Charge Blade. Again, go back to Sword and Shield if you like a more in-depth dive onto this build. Not that long, but yes, go all the way back there if you want it. For this build, you need the Rathalos Charge Blade at grade 10, the Anjanath Helmet at grade 6, Anjanath Fan Braces at grade 6, Black Diablo's Coil at grade 6, and the Azarathalos Greaves at grade 6. However, we're not done yet because the Charge Blade has one more build for the Fire Charge Blade. We have the Offensive Guard 5, Crit Build 2. This is the exact same one as the Lance with a practical theoretical damage assessment of 3,830. Does not use Fire Attack again, and it maxes out Offensive Guard 5 and uses Crit for additional damage. Thanks to the really expensive Koropuke Puke Helm, this gives this build lock on. To use this build, you need the Rathalos Charge Blade at grade 10, the Koropuke Puke Helmet at grade 8, the Baroth Mail at grade 6, Bamboo Van Braces at grade 6, Pink Wrathing Coil at grade 6, and the Black Diablo's Greaves at grade 6. Alright, that was a lot of builds, so I'm going to keep the closes short. Hopefully this build helps you with fire attack and with the upcoming ice event. Fire melts ice. You're going to hear a lot of Legianas/Bariots screaming because you are burning them to death with fire. And I will be doing another video with budget builds in the future regarding fire attack and linking it to this video. So if this is too expensive, don't worry about it. I'm going to do the budget one and I'm going to put it over here. I will do the best I can because, again, fire is very limited. With that being said, please do me a huge favor. Like, subscribe, and comment for the YouTube algorithm. I hope y'all are looking forward to the ice events. And again, I hope these builds really did help you out. Good luck on your grinds, and I will see y'all on the next video.